through, and Stan gave me some really good pieces of advice, and I try to tell him every now and then, but he doesn't remember. And I've been following his advice many times, and it's been a good advice. So he's a dear friend, and I love to have him in my class along with Jack. Do you go by Jack? Is it okay that I'm just Jack? He's just Jack. Mr. Leonard.
Very good.
And I'm trying. My tongue is like I'm having a hard time getting there. And Stan is here today to talk to you about WAS Alliance. And it is an organization that he started a few years ago. And we look forward to hearing from you, Stan. So please pay attention.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am very happy to be here. This is the second time that Mariana invites me to speak to one of her classes. And what else that I do that she didn't say is that I teach in an international school. It's the International School of Indiana, up north of Indianapolis, where I teach in third grade on the French track. That's where I've been since I graduated from University of Indianapolis. I'm also doing my grad school at Indiana University Bloomington in the Educational Leadership and Policy Studies, where I'm doing my PhD. My focus is on international education, international and comparative education. The other thing that I'm doing is that I'm the president of WAS Alliance, and Jack Leonard, who's with me this afternoon, is the vice president and also co-founder of the WAS Alliance for Quality Education. The third person who's coming, hopefully he's going to make it, is Dick Richard Hollowell. He lives in Greensburg. He just has some family matters to take care of, but he's the treasurer of our organization. We have been in existence since 2008, when we actually incorporated the organization. But my vision is an old vision. It's a vision that I've had since I came to the United States in 1998, when I met Mariana here on campus. I wanted to do something to give back to the community or communities that have helped me in my life, to help me be where I am today. It's a long story, I can't tell you in a few minutes, but there's always a drive inside us when we find ourselves in certain circumstances and good things happen. Of course bad things happen, but let me put it short. When good things happen and they become memorable, and then they drive your inner force to do something. Doesn't matter if you get paid for it, but you think that it's the right thing to do. Doesn't matter who's the beneficiary. It could be your friend or your family member. It could be anybody. But right now, I'm standing in a situation where I don't care who is the beneficiary. So that's where I developed that altruism, that feeling, that sentiment of that philanthropic sentiment. It's something I don't have to do. I may say that, I am in the United States. I came from a very, very challenging community in Africa. So I can say I'm happy, I have a job, who cares, right? But it's not where I am. It's just that I'm in a position where I want to do something, and this has been a driving force in me day and night. I wanted to do something. So, when I graduated, I thought, what is the idea? What is the niche? What is the thing that I want to do? I said I want to give back, but I want to give back out of the gifts that I have. I don't have to create something else. What I know best is that I know how to teach. Like she said, I know how to speak too. So, but I've been a teacher for 23 years, okay? I taught in Africa, in the Congo, and then I came here, recertified here. It's another story. I came here, I thought I had a degree, right? But then I was told, no, you gotta follow our teacher education program. Well, I don't need this, I don't need that. Well, it doesn't matter, but if you really want your diploma, these are our requirements. So I had to go through all that. So it gave me a perspective on how education is organized in this country. I had a perspective of how it is organized in countries like the Congo. Then I ended up, working in an international school. So I thought, this is what I have. How can I help someone else? But I wanted to help somebody else in the circumstances similar to where I came from. The circumstances were like, I think I was smart enough, I had a good will to work. I just didn't have that helping hand that could pull me out of whatever situation I was in. Then I got that help. Then I came here, I got more help. So that's what drove my energy and my force. Now, I need to show you a few slides. And
I'm curious. One of the things is that Dick, whose name I didn't put up because he wasn't here yet, you wouldn't have a face to associate with it. But Stan and Dick and I all have something in common that you all have in common, which is that we have a debt that we owe in a real sense to United Methodist Church. Without that, this university wouldn't be here. But like all debts of that kind, that's what Stan was talking about, you always have to pay them forward. The people who founded this university and kept it alive during some very hard times, are gone. There's nothing they can do, but you can do it for the future. One of the people that I certainly think about in those terms is, how many of you had a elementary school teacher who made a significant difference in your life? Now, I've got a question. For those of you who raised your hand, you take it down for right now. How many people was it a kindergarten teacher that you remember best? First grade? Second grade? Third grade? Fourth grade? And fifth grade? Now, in my days, we went to sixth grade. That's now middle school, but I'll keep sixth grade. How many people were doing sixth grade? Yeah. I was very fortunate. I actually had the same teacher for the second and third grade, and she was marvelous. 100 years ago, in the United States, most Americans would not complete the 8th grade. Today, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, most students will never complete the 8th grade. They are where we were in about 1850. There's finally a devotion to the possibility of free public education, but not really a way to bring it about. Fustan was very fortunate, as he says. He went through the 8th grade in a town which was very fortunate because the local mining company paid for the schools. But not at the 8th grade. But then he got the opportunity to get a scholarship to go away, a long way from his family, and to go to Lubumbashi. There, although raised a good Catholic boy, he fell among Methodists, and it was they who helped him come to the University of Indianapolis. So, as he says, he feels he's got a lot to give back. And when I first met Fustan, he was a student here at the University of Indianapolis. I'm at North United Methodist Church, and he came there on a summer service project, and we helped him bring his family over and do some other things. But the very first conversation I ever had with Fustan was about his desire to improve education. Just about 5 years ago, I went to a very fascinating sort of family event. Turns out that my mother's father was president of a teacher's college. And they had their 100th anniversary of their first commencement. And those teachers, 100 years ago, had gotten their certificate by attending a summer institute. That's all the education they had. That is more education than most Congolese teachers get. And so when Fastan says, you know, he wants to give back, what he's trying to do is a number of things. And the very first things he's doing, and he'll show you some slides of this, is to try to improve the quality of teachers. Who, by the way, you think teachers aren't well paid in this country. Fastan can tell you how many weeks on average it is they go without being paid at all in Congo. So, you know, he understands the situation on the ground, but he also understands what can be done with a few dedicated people. And so, got it set up?
Yep.
It's all yours.
Right. So, process of starting the motion, the initiative was to create an organization that abides by the rules of the game in the United States, which is you gotta be legal, incorporate, and those kind of things. So we went through all that, and we came up with this organization and that definition of what it is. I always think that education is a human right. Of course, we say it every day, but the truth of the matter is that it's not yet a human right. It is just a privilege for those who can afford it. Because there are many more who cannot. They can claim it is a human right, but it's not yet. We need to work very hard to get it a universal human right. Where we do work, we operate in the blue country in the center here, but we are more operating in the south of the Congo. And notice that there are two Congos. There's the red one here, which is the Republic of Congo. And there's a blue one, which is the Democratic Republic of Congo. First one here was colonized by the French. The big one here was colonized by the Belgians. You may have heard, you may have read about King Leopold's Ghost, which Adam Rothschild wrote. If not, it's a very good book that I also recommend you to read. The country has been going through a lot of issues, a lot of crises. It's gone through what we call today the First African World War, which started in 1998 and stopped in 2001, but the social effects and consequences and the damage is still pretty visible in the lives of the people, in the infrastructure of the country. They're there. The belligerents, the countries that were involved, so many. That's why they call it the First African World War, because of the involvement of so many neighboring countries. The motivations of the war was, first to overthrow the Mobutu regime. Mobutu used to be the president of the country since 1965 until when he was overthrown in 1997. But then another military campaign started to overthrow the guy who replaced Mobutu, which is Kabila. And he also got assassinated in 2001. And then his son became a de facto president by the fact that he was actually a military commander. So they gave him the power because I think everybody was scared to be responsible. The economic motivation of the war was that the TNC are the transnational corporations, were trying to gain access to the natural resources. One of the main resources that they use to make the devices we all love, iPhones, computers, laptops, iPads, etc. I don't know if anybody will remember in this room that just 15 years ago, we were advised when you buy a computer, make sure you shut it down because it's going to heat up and it's going to freeze. You remember that? Yeah. Now it doesn't freeze anymore, right? It does not. You can leave it 24/7 for as long as the device is alive. This is what is making it so stable. And 60 to 70% of this mineral is in the Congo. So that's another motivation. And so over 5 million dead, millions were internally displaced, social services completely disrupted. Talk about education and health. So it becomes very challenging for a family to afford healthcare as to afford education as well. Unemployment rate is just unbearable. Even the kids who have a chance to finish their school, get good education, the next thing that they face is get a job. There wasn't any investment for so long, so there wasn't any job at all. So access to education became a challenge. We looked at it, we looked at the buildings, we looked at the financial power that the household had, we looked at the conditions, the health conditions of the children. We recognized that we had a problem with access to education. There are two key verbs or terms that we use in education: access and quality. Access has to do with all the infrastructures, buildings, books and stuff like that. Quality is when a child is in class. We need to look at what happens as soon as they are in class. So we look at the quality of the teachers, evaluations, the tests, the attendance rate, and so on. Most of the debate in the United States is not about the infrastructure. The infrastructure is already there, 99.999%. Whether the building is 100 years old, but it's there. Most of the debate, the political debate in the United States, is about the quality of education. What to do with teachers who don't want to do their jobs, teachers' performance. What to do with children so they can pass the I-STEP, etc. Those are the issues they have. Now, when you consider that in the Congo there isn't even enough schools, let alone how many teachers you get, and let alone the quality of those teachers, that's where the challenge is. I happened to go to my hometown 2 years ago and took those pictures of my elementary school. When I was there, it used to be very good, green everywhere, flowers, everything, good teachers, or well paid, like Jack said. Our company, the company where my parents worked, was like the Eli Lilly of Indiana. So imagine Eli Lilly have so much money, they would build their own schools for the Eli Lilly employees. They would hire teachers, they would train them, they would make sure those teachers, they can perform well. And then they had their own healthcare system. And they hired doctors and everything. So every worker, they deducted from their wages the money to fund the education and health. So that when you're sick, you just take a voucher or a ticket and then you go to see a doctor. So that was the system where I grew up, which is not a typical system for the whole country. So it wasn't really that every child would access those kind of buildings at all. This was my high school. Just by looking at the buildings, you can tell, and they were built in the 1950s by the Catholic Church, and it was pretty a good school. But you got schools like this, and then you get schools that are worse than that. Now, the question that Mariana said we need to help answer is, what is the social problem that we're trying to solve? And how do we tackle the social problem? I would say that children do not have a chance to access quality education. Even those who are enrolled, they don't necessarily have access to quality teaching. They don't have access to quality learning. And in terms of equal opportunity, I just say that, even for enrollment, if you are not the niece or the nephew of somebody, you may not be enrolled in the school. There's that ethnic tension all the time when it comes